Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. You have tuned in to episode 2 of the Neill podcast. My guest today has raised capital for 3 startups, counted 60,000 grains of rice. He speaks 2 different languages, and he's played table tennis representing Auckland. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Auckland in New Zealand. So we are going trans-Pacific? I don't know my oceans, but the Luton podcast has gone global. We've got our first guest from overseas. He's actually tuning in from San Francisco. So, without further ado, let's get into the episode. Eugene, thank you for joining us. Welcome to the Luton podcast. This is episode 2, and you are our first international guest. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good to be here, man.
It is. So, Eugene, how does it feel to count 60,000 grains of rice?
That's the first question you ask. I actually didn't count 60,000. I only counted 10, and I weighed like the other 50,000 because it got a little bit too tedious as someone with ADHD counting more than 2,000 grains of rice a day. So I stopped counting that.
That's still crazy. 10,000 grains. I'd have stopped it like when I had to do 100 a day. That is absolutely mental. But
it's not too bad.
Obviously,
it's like every grain you count is like it's a follower every time I count a rice. So I'm like, okay, it's not too bad.
It's a person. Yeah, I suppose it gives extra meaning to all of the success and giving back to your community.
Yeah.
So what spurred this journey that you're now on? And obviously you're posting on social media, but where did it all start?
So what spurred this journey? So I just had food. So my mind is like, you know how like when you have a bit too much carbs and then like it hits your brain and then now it's like a little bit foggy. I'll try my best to answer all the questions. So where was the question? The question was,
where did it all start? So what spurred you to kind of develop this app?
Where did it all start? So I got diagnosed with ADHD 5 months ago. I think it's August. Yeah, so 5 months ago. But before I got diagnosed, I was already running a startup. Well, I wasn't running a startup. I was finding a problem in my life that I can solve. And one thing that I realized while I was finding that problem is that while I'm behind a computer screen, I keep getting distracted. I keep scrolling on social media. I can't focus. So I'm like, hey, that's a huge problem. I bet everyone else, like there's so many other people that experiences this. At that time, I didn't know what ADHD was. So yeah, I went online, did like hyper focused on researching why I can't focus and realized that ADHD just kept popping up. And I'm like, what is ADHD? So I'm from New Zealand. New Zealand isn't well educated on neurodivergency. So I didn't know what ADHD was. And then ADHD kept popping up. I'm like, oh God, I need to find out what this is. And I may have it. So I actually tried to book in a psychiatrist, yes, a psychiatrist in New Zealand, and they were like, hey, you have it's a 6-month wait. I was like, what the hell, 6 months? Like everyone in New Zealand's trying to get diagnosed. So I ended up doing an online diagnosis through the States. So I found one in the US because I was already going to the US, so I could actually have access to the psychiatrist. And I got diagnosed in New Zealand, it's free. In US, it was like a few hundred USD, which is a little. It's quite
it's
a
not
bit.
Too bad. You can pay about $1,000 in England. Is it quite a lengthy process or quite simple? It depends where you go because they're all
for
like individual sites. Yeah. And then if you get your diagnosis privately, your medication is also private. So obviously the NHS usually funds your prescriptions and you pay £12 or something like that. But if you get your diagnosis private, then you have to pay for your prescriptions privately. And it's like, I looked online once and like like American insurance will charge you like $300 for Concerta XL, which I'm on. But just going back to, you mentioned that like neurodivergency isn't really a thing in New Zealand. So when you grew up, was there no kids in school? Was there not that kid that was labelled, oh, he's got ADHD, he's crazy? Was there none of that?
No,
Did you know anyone when you was growing up?
it's yeah. It was crazy. Like in back in New Zealand, I immigrated to New Zealand when I was 6, and I'm from China. So yeah, went to New Zealand, and I there's this thing called ESOL, which is English Student of Other Languages, and you get put into ESOL because you can't speak English. So there's two classes, mainstream and ESOL. And majority of people who immigrated to New Zealand, they pass ESOL in like a year or two, and then they jump into mainstream. So like you pass the reading test, the writing test, and the very basic English stuff. I stayed there for about 8 years. So from like year 2, from primary school to like high school, I was in ESOL, and everyone else passed in a year or two. I stayed for 8. That's like crazy to me because I struggled understanding why, and I thought I was dumb for the longest amount of time. And yeah, that oh,
But like
yeah, I
you
couldn't
speak
deal with
perfectly
it.
good English now. Was that the case
Yeah,
when you were
yeah.
still there?
Like 4 years after moving to New Zealand, I probably spoke good English,
Mm.
but it's because of my ADHD, and I'm diagnosed ADHD, and I'm not sure if I've dyslexia, but I feel like I've dyslexia, or it could be that ADHD is so severe that it induces the dyslexia.
Yeah,
So
just
yeah,
focusing
every
on books
time,
is an impossibility.
yeah, every time I read out loud, I can't read. I can't read and get the words into my brain. Like I just can't read. So if you give me a paragraph to read out loud to pass my reading test, I just can't read. I just can't read. Like it gets jumbled. So yeah, never passed it. And then yeah, New Zealand's education system for people with ADHD isn't really strong. So yeah, I just felt dumb growing up.
I'm sorry to hear that. Uh, do you, I don't know. I don't know what a comparison is. Is it very similar to Australia? Do you have any experience with that? Like,
I
or
don't
do
know.
you think they're both
Australia.
kind of equal in their support systems for neurodivergency or mental health for that matter?
Well, I don't I don't know much about Australia, but I would assume that it's just a bit better. Like usually Australia, they have just like not yeah, like 1.5 times better than New Zealand. So that's what I'm assuming.
Whoa, that's
So
pretty controversial, man.
like in
Coming
terms
from a
of
Kiwi himself,
educational
though.
system, yeah, I'm a Kiwi, and I've been to Aussie. They have a little bit better coffee, a little bit better food, just a bit better than New Zealand.
I love how coffee is the first thing you mentioned. Are you a bit of a coffee addict? Do you think that that was one of the
Ah,
things that was like a coping mechanism for you before? Because a lot of
I
people don't
think
realize that like stimulants, this ADHD medication, the official medication that I take every day is a stimulant. And there are so many people that have gotten by through life because they're technically self-medicating. Those people that have 6, 8, 10 coffees a day, loading up on stimulants, and it's allows them to focus. But in reality, they might just have ADHD and they need a lot to re-regulate their brain. Was that you?
yeah. So um, for coffee, I I'm also I think I'm ADHD, and I'm the anxious type of ADHD. So
Hmm.
for me, when I drink coffee, I get more anxious because my heartbeat like beats to mimic that anxiety that I feel. And
And you're so self-aware of that as well.
yeah, so like right now I don't have
Wow.
a lot of anxiety, but if I drink coffee, I know I'll also get social anxiety. So I'm like, oh fuck, am I saying the right
Oh.
things? I'm on a podcast? Like what do I yeah, but I'm more calm now. It's just the brain fog that's hitting me from the food. But yeah, I love coffee. I get super productive with coffee, but then I get super anxious with coffee. Like it's like
Oh.
it's a huge difference. So then I start thinking about, oh, what if this goes wrong? What if that goes wrong? And yeah, my brain just starts acting up.
That's the thing. I think there's so many people that anxiety saved them. So I think, especially in England, they say that if you have anxiety, you need to kind of treat that before ADHD because a lot of people, the anxiety will make sure you're hitting deadlines or make sure you're getting work done. I don't have an ounce of anxiety in my brain, in my life at all. So deadlines are coming up. I'm not worried. I'm gonna not do a piece of work. I'm not worried. If something's gonna go wrong, it's gonna go wrong. I just let it go. It's fine. But then there's people that I know that have been diagnosed a lot later. They have anxiety. They're much more quote unquote high functioning because they get stuff done. And I think it's that anxiety in the back of their head that's like, something's going to go really wrong if you don't do this. Everyone's going to hate you. Like your life is going to be over. But even going back to the coffee, I don't know whether I just don't drink it because I don't want to kind of fall into that addiction, but it also just makes me sleepy a lot of the time. But I've been on medication since I was 6, so like God knows what my adrenal system's like or my sensitivity to stimulants. But I'll drink the odd espresso now and again if I'm on holiday, like the cafe vibes. I don't know if you've been to Europe much, but a little
I love Europe.
pastry and an espresso. Yeah.
I love that. That's like my jam. Like in New Zealand, we have great brunch. Like one thing about New Zealand, great brunch, great coffee. Like that's great nature as well. So yeah, I love going to brunch. Oh man, already forgot what I was going to say. I had a point, but that's the ADHD brain.
Coffee making you sleepy? Was it anything to do with that?
Yes, yeah. So coffee, yes. It's so interesting. So I maybe this is like a different coffee bean. Like if sometimes I get really sleepy on coffee, and other times I get really energetic. So there's like three different Eugenes, like sleepy Eugene, and then there's like a hyperactive Eugene after you drink a lot of coffee, and there's super anxious Eugene. So like there's like three. Occasionally I hit the hyperactive Eugene, which after I drink coffee, and I'm like alert. I'm really like I'm ready to go, and I have no anxiety. That's so rare. I don't know how to control it. So I would say that I'm quite aware of my emotions. So I'm like consistently trying out, okay, what about tea? What about this dosage of caffeine? What is it doing to my body? I think if I have more than a cup of coffee, I get anxiety.
It's probably something to do with like the levels of dopamine that you've already got in your body. Like if you've recently exercised, then you have some caffeine or something like that, because it kind of props up that dopamine system, doesn't it? The stimulants.
Yeah,
So it might be
I
something
actually
to do with that, but
yeah, I did a bit of research on this. I think I shouldn't have. I had a lot of sugar for lunch, but I ordered a salad. But then I ordered like a fruit salad, and then I had like a like sweet sauce all over it. Then yeah, so like I'm having that afternoon crash. So you realize something with ADHD is I think we experience the crash a bit more than others, like because we get more brain fog, and our brain's already like neurodivergent to begin with. So if we feed ourselves with any sort of dopamine, which comes from sugar, then we get drained out of that dopamine, and dopamine is needed for your motivation. So if you have too much dopamine, then whatever task you're going to do next has less dopamine. So yeah, I try to limit my dopamine every day so that I can actually get my work done. But so I tend to go for salads every day. If I have like too much carbs or too much sugar, my afternoon is just like gone. I would rather be scrolling on my phone than doing work.
I might have to try that because I think I've heard of the like start your day with high protein and kind of avoid carbs for the start of it, but I'm in that camp where like ADHD, you've got like your safe food. So I'll have like, just because it's easy and quick, I'll have like noodles and like chicken strips out of the oven that I can throw in the air fryer and go. I know it sounds terrible as a diet for someone who's meant to be a quote unquote national athlete. But yeah, that's my lunchtime safe food. And
I feel like that's okay because, like, for you, I limit carbs and sugar because I don't exercise as much as you. So if you exercise, you might need the carbs for the energy. But for me, I'm like behind the desk all the time. So if I feed myself sugar, like, I don't need the energy. And it's just like, it gives me brain fog.
I think I could definitely use a few more salads. So the pounds of packing on, and Christmas was not, well, it was very kind to me, but not necessarily kind to my waistline. So if we go back to kind of like school time, I think it'd be good to kind of engage in that and maybe see if you can pick up things like when we look back and see where you've looked back now and you're like, that was ADHD, that was my ADHD. I did that because I had ADHD. Like, how was it, and what was it like once you got diagnosed? Looking back at those kind of things, like, and reflecting, because a lot of people say
Oh
that
man,
they mourn the person they could have been if they known, and you being diagnosed so late, like, there's all these
yeah,
decisions that you can look back on that you're like, fuck, like, if I wasn't overstimulated or
yeah,
angry and frustrated, or because of our emotional regulation, if you've got ADHD, a lot of time you don't really know what emotions you're feeling. You just know you've got a lot of it, and a lot of time we default to aggression, which sometimes means that we cut ties, we say things we don't mean, and a lot of like negative impact outcomes occur. So how was that for you?
yeah. I think now looking back, there's a lot of traits that I'm like, this is why. So one of the traits that's actually I think quite common in ADHD is people pleasing
Hmm.
and the fear of rejection. That's why we people please. And I was a huge people pleaser. I Another thing that's quite common. I was a class clown, and
Yeah.
that's like a common thing. Apparently, I thought that was my personality. I'm like, yeah, I love being funny. Like, oh, I love spreading joy. But it's
Hmm.
it's just fucking
Yeah.
ADHD.
Yeah.
Oh my god. But yeah, so the one thing about people pleasing, it just means that I actually went around and got to know everyone, and I became a popular person
Hmm.
because I enjoyed the attention, but I didn't know who I was as a person. So I didn't belong to one group. I was in every group. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that to me sounds like an ADHD thing. And yeah, also like me being an ESOL, right? Like a lot of people from the outside will think that, hey, like this guy's dumb and this guy's got some sort of like issues. But I didn't. Yeah, I just knew that I was different, but I couldn't pinpoint why. And I wasn't doing bad at school. I was good at math. I was good at other non-language things.
Hmm.
Actually, I was only good at math. Yeah, and and sports. So quite sporty. I think a lot of people with ADHD can resonate with being sporty.
Hmm.
But yeah, so much negative self-talk. So I just remember like, hey, why am I so different? Why am I like this? Why is everyone else like that? But the one thing that I I know I was like super anxious, but I didn't. I think a lot of people would experience this, which I didn't experience, which is I didn't get into depression,
Hmm.
which is very interesting because I had my whole childhood kind of seems like it could go to that route, but maybe I don't have that depression gene, or I don't. Something that like something that didn't hit.
Like, this isn't by no means professional advice, but from what I've experienced, the kind of a depression that a lot of ADHD people feel isn't true clinical depression. A lot of the time, if you're my limited understanding, if you've got clinical depression, it doesn't matter really what you do. Even if you have the best day ever, you're still depressed. Like, there's nothing you can do to get out of that mood until your kind of body decides. Whereas I find that with my own experience and other people with ADHD, it's we generally have really bad habits and we're really negative to ourselves. If we're scrolling constantly, if we're not getting the work done, we're talking negative to ourselves, we're not eating healthily, we're not speaking to people, having good social interaction, then we get into those vicious cycles of being negative to ourselves and not doing good things, and then we start to feel depressed. But I think a lot of people with ADHD, when they start to do something good, have a good chat with a friend, start playing some sports, get some exercise, get good sleep, their mood can switch around like that. So I think that's why, like, the depression is the ADHD people is slightly different. And I've had a lot of my clients that I speak to say that that's what they feel. I had a girl on the call the other day that like got really emotional. She actually cried because she was like, "Wow, like because she's like, I'm generally a happy person, and I don't want to like end my life or anything like that. But there's times where I'm like, fuck, everything's just going wrong." And then she does something good for herself, which is fine. I don't know whether it's because like we've got that short-term memory and we forget about all the bad stuff or something like that, because we seem to bounce back from things very well. We're very resilient people, especially people with ADHD, whether it's because our memories are just so short or we've just got something inbuilt in us because we're used to so much negativity. but also coming through it.
Yeah, I remember like back in the days, I was addicted to gaming, but before like scrolling social media, like being addicted to games was the hot thing.
Mm-hmm.
But now all the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas, they will probably be scrolling.
Yeah, definitely. It's just so easy. Like I, I refused to get TikTok for so long till I had to start posting on it. Even though Instagram Reels is just as easy and just as addictive, I thought I was being cool and an adult and like trying to limit my own self-destruction by not downloading it. But I still spent just as much time scrolling on Instagram. I don't know why. I thought I was kind
Yeah,
of I took the moral high ground by not going on TikTok, and I was like, oh no, you're still wasting just as much time. But it's
I
that
do.
instant gratification again, like similar to gaming. Like you get a kill, complete a level, it's instant. You haven't had to work for it. The gratification isn't delayed. Like going to the gym, working hard on a project, the gratification will come later when you see results, when you start doing well in your business, when you start investing in friendships or relationships, and then they start doing nice things for you, things like that. They take up a lot of time, and within that time period, if you've got ADHD, there's time for you to start talking negatively. There's time for that rejection sensitive dysphoria kick in. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's so easy, I think, for especially people with
it's
ADHD.
crazy, man. Like I deleted TikTok to start watching YouTube Shorts and then get into Instagram Reels. So like I was just like, what? It, 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 it can't escape. And the scary thing is what's happening to our world is everyone is getting more and more addicted to
Yeah.
social media, and especially with like well, there's AI getting involved now. So if AI is like they can predict what you like exactly when you want it, and I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
that's gonna be crazy. And there's a new thing that is even more scarier, which is they can now have the most prettiest faces on short form content. So if you think about pretty people, right? You look at them because they give you dopamine. And
Uh,
now you can consistently look at them and it's gonna shorten our attention span more and more. So yeah,
mhm.
that's something that's scary that AI is gonna it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And like later on, AI movies and oh, it's gonna be crazy.
It's one of those things. Like there's been some incredible like human behavioral psychologists that have looked at things. Like I think particularly like phone contracts, they're impossible to cancel. And there's been someone, a very smart human psychologist, that has said the average human will sit on the phone for this amount of time. So first of all, you're going to make them sit on a phone with awful elevator music playing for double the amount of time that we expect people to sit on hold for, in order for them to cancel this contract. But Instagram does the same thing. They'll scroll and scroll and scroll, and the amount of time you spend on a thing, they measure everything. So if you're scrolling too fast, like not looking at things, they'll send something that they think that you'll like instantly. And if you slow down on that, they'll write that down and think, okay, then that correlates to that. They kind of like this guy's into cars. We'll send him some more car stuff. Did he like cars more? Yes, we'll keep
Yeah.
sending him more. And that's why no one sees their friends post, because Instagram wants you to stay on the app first. And then after a while, after you've looked at a few of their ads, after they've got their money, then you'll see, oh, James has been to the seaside today. That's lovely. Not after I've seen a million different people doing a dance to TikTok and 5 people trying to sell me Huel or AG1 or Whoop. Like it's crazy the kind of things that is
I've
just
got a
being basically
whoop
pumped into
right
us.
here.
I've wanted one for so long. I can't lie, I've wanted one, but I listened to James Smith and I was like, am I going to be the guy that's going to see that it tells me that I've not had a good sleep or that I'm not well recovered and listen to it and stay in bed? Or am I going to guy that's going to be like, okay, like I'll take it easy? Chances are I'm being the one that's going to be like, fuck, I won't work out today then. I didn't sleep very well. So maybe later, but yeah, I think I'm better off just if I feel good, go.
Yeah, I've heard of all the stuff that you just said, like the Huel, the whoops. Yeah, I just bought AG1 and I bought Elements, which is a hydration because
Do
I'm
you know
listening
why
to
AG1 is so popular?
why?
They give a 30% commission. Yeah, a
Wow.
30% commission. If you watch James Smith, he made a video on it, and yeah, like everyone recommends it. Even like the big guys, the guys that you think you trust, like Andrew Huberman, Diary of a
Yeah.
CEO, they all do it. But in theory, it probably is a complete nutrition. But yeah, they get 30% commission on it.
That's crazy. But you know, another reason why I buy AG1? It's because it's manufactured in New Zealand. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm
supporting the
like,
local economy, even though you've left.
yeah, why not? But the thing is, I was in New Zealand and I couldn't buy AG1 because they don't ship there, and it's manufactured from New Zealand. So I'm like, well, you get all the green from New Zealand, but you don't even like ship to your
I think
motherland. So
that
I'm like,
tells you
oh,
something there, though, doesn't it? If they're not selling to their home market, maybe they don't think
yeah.
that it's that valuable.
But I mean, still, like, his employees under in manufacturing buildings, so I guess okay, I'm sort of helping. So
There you go. You're doing your bit to prop up the New Zealand
yeah.
economy now that you no longer live there and aren't paying tax there anymore. So tell us what's you're currently talking to us from San Francisco. Tell us everything that's involved in that move. Obviously, you're there because of, for people that don't follow the ADHD founder on Instagram, he posts really relatable, informative, funny clips. But every other clip, at the end of every day, um, he will put a grain of rice in the cup for every follower that he gains. And for every follower that he gains, your investor was going to invest $1. Is that correct? So now that you've hit that, does that mean that you've now moved to San Francisco? Well, I'll let you tell me the story.
Well, San Francisco is where literally all the startups are, and I
Mm-hmm.
am building a ADHD tool. So, and amazingly, yeah, people in San Francisco, I think a lot of them are on some sort of spectrum or some sort of neurodivergent
Mm-hmm.
neurodivergency, or yeah, that's what
Yeah.
you call it. Because there's so many founders here, and to be a startup founder, you have to be a huge risk taker. I'm a huge risk taker. Like
Yeah.
I'm about to go broke in about 5 months, like dead ass broke. But
I've
my
already been there.
investor, yeah, like I'm still spending on things, like spending recklessly on so many things, and I'm
It's
just like,
fine. We can earn more
yeah,
money.
it's fine. Like, yeah, when the time comes when it's a month left to live, like then I'll deal with it, you know. But like, I think that also comes from my confidence of knowing that my investors would invest into my company. So that gives me a bit of like a okay, at least I can have 2 months to raise this money.
Mm-hmm.
Then I get the money, I can pay myself a salary. So I can still be like I can like San Francisco is the second most expensive city in the whole world. Versus New York. Second is San Francisco. I think third is Singapore.
I was going to say, I
So
thought Singapore
yeah,
would have been first, but yeah, it makes
no,
sense.
no, no. It's New York and then San Francisco. Where San Francisco, you got all the big tech and everyone
Mm-hmm.
in tech here, so like
So is
salaries
that
are crazy high.
Silicon Valley's in San Fran then? Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is. I was going to say something, but I forgot what we were saying. Oh yeah, San Francisco is good. They have a lot of near. I'm getting my energy back. Like
Perfect.
I can feel like my crash dying down, and like it's so crazy because like I think I'm just trying to be more and more aware of my mental state, and also meditate. I do cold shower. I do all these wellness things so I can kind of see what the difference between before Eugene and after Eugene. So I had that
Mm-hmm.
salad for the first time. It was a fruit salad. Now I know not to have that fruit salad again because it gave me a really bad crash just then. So I'm like, I wasn't like motivated. But anyways, I jumped the topic again. What was like? Well, San Francisco.
San
A lot
Francisco.
of people here are neurodivergent because they're doing risky things, trying to make a living in the startup world. And I feel like startup being an entrepreneur, it's for me is a lifestyle. And I quite enjoy this lifestyle because it's so ADHD friendly. Like I choose my
Very.
own time. I can work on things that I enjoy and then delegate the things that I don't. And I'm like, oh, okay, then Yeah, like all my life, I knew in my blood that I couldn't do a 9 to 5, but I couldn't pinpoint why until I got
Mm.
diagnosed 5 months ago with ADHD. I'm like, oh, this is why I knew from a very young age that I couldn't do 9 to 5. I'm like, okay, everything makes sense now.
Have you ever worked a
I've
9 to 5, or is it just been?
I have, but it's still like in a startup, which is like a flexible kind of like, and
Yeah,
you also
you take
work
on
more
new roles
hours.
as the company grows, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. And I was the content person for that team. I was also a software developer. I was also like, yeah, I was doing multiple things. So I was like, it's not your typical 9 to 5 where you climb like the ladder and do that one thing and do it really well. If you
Yeah.
give me one thing to master, I can tell you this now, I won't master it, but I will
Mhm.
be good at everything. Like you give me any new thing, I'm a curious person. You give me anything, I will figure it out and I'll do it well, but I wouldn't do it to the extent that I'll get a PhD.
Yeah, it's one of the things I find, like, I can teach myself anything. Like, I got a car over lockdown, and I couldn't drive at that point because of the things they weren't doing tests. So I started tinkering with it, changed the oil, did some paint work, and then like I found some rust, and I was like, oh fuck. So the first thing I just put some like fiberglass over it, and then I found more, and I was like, oh, I need to really fix this. So I taught myself to weld.
What weld? What's weld?
Weld, as in like welding torch, like MIG welder, TIG welder, butter welder. Taught myself how to weld metal onto metal. Got
Ah,
that
yes, okay.
done.
Yeah.
Done 3-stage painting processes, and I was like, I've just basically taught myself to be a mechanic via YouTube. And like the work was convincing. Like, I'd take my hat off to myself, because you couldn't tell where the paint had gone or where the work was. Even though I did it with a rattle can, not in some hermetically sealed paint booth on my driveway with bits of paper and rattly spray cans. And I was like, well, like, I feel like people with ADHD can do most things. It's one of the things. Someone said, oh, are you really a jack of all trades, or do you just have ADHD?
Oh, that's a tough question to answer now thinking about it. Like, why the answer is yes.
Yes. Definitely. Okie dokie. So I think we need to go back. We've got to stop there.
Yeah,
So,
I can't remember the questions like you started. I would always go on tangents. So like you stop me when like if I'm
so
going on a
at what
different
point
tangent.
did you move to San Francisco? So bear in mind, let's go. So you were in New Zealand when you got diagnosed, okay? Right?
Yeah. I was in New Zealand. No, wait. Yes, I was in New Zealand when I got. Was I? No, actually. So interestingly, you can't be in New Zealand to get a US psychiatrist over Zoom. You have to be in the uh, in US to get a US psychiatrist.
Okay.
So as soon as I landed in US, which was about like 7th of August or something, I got diagnosed. And interestingly, like, yeah, the psychiatrist was like, yeah, you have raging ADHD. And I was like, oh shit. Okay, that makes
And this
sense.
was
I'm
over a
like,
Zoom call.
yeah, yeah, you can only do Zoom calls, and it has to be the state that you're staying in, and you have to have the psychiatrist in the state as well. So, yeah, that was over a Zoom call. It was a 90-minute diagnosis, asking a bunch of questions, and I'm like, wow, damn, I didn't know. Like, yeah, that was me. It's like, has your mom ever? The one question was like, has your mom ever told you that you were like jumpy, like naughty? I'm like, yeah, they tell me all the time. I just didn't realize. I thought that was me being a kid. Like I thought all
Mm.
kids like jump on trampolines, like run around and like shout and stuff. I'm like, what?
Was it? Has
They
your mum
don't
ever
do
says
that?
that he bounces off the walls? That's like the classic.
I hit myself bouncing on the mattress, and I landed on the corner of the window or something, and like there's a scar there, and I was like, oh shit, okay. And I always remember that because I remember that so vividly because it was so painful. And this was when I was 5. I was very young, and I was just like, damn, okay, now that makes sense why I did that. And I realized my sister doesn't really do that. I guess like it shows up a little bit different in girls.
Mhm. Oh, definitely. But I can't believe it. So it was just one diagnosis, one 90-minute phone call. In England, you have to do like you have a chat with your GP. They'll be like, okay, it's worth you being checked out. Then you'll go on a waiting list for a psychiatrist. They'll talk to you, they'll talk to your parents, they'll talk to your teachers, they'll look at your school records. Then they'll have like a deeper interview with you and like question like your behavior and things like that. Like it's a long process.
Yeah. Sounds like a long process for kids, but I think for adults, we're quite aware and we know exactly the
Oh,
answers.
this
And we
is
just,
for adults. For children,
yeah.
you
So
go in like a play school.
oh, really?
Yeah. So
Okay,
when I
I
was
don't know
6, I
then.
went to
Like,
like play groups and like psychiatrists observed me, and then they were like, yeah.
oh, well, I guess, yeah, not 90 minutes, 90 minutes in US.
Well,
And
yeah, I
then they're
think
like,
yeah. In the US, yeah, you can probably get anything done in 90 minutes, can't you?
yeah, that's interesting. I didn't realize those. Well, I didn't have to go through a GP. I can go directly to the psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Wow, this is a different process. And it sounds like UK, you have to pay a couple $1,000s to get a
That's
diagnosis.
if you do a private one. Through the NHS, it's long. I'm not sure whether the private one is a 90-minute phone call with a psychiatrist. That might be. I think it's around like £800, depending on what the psychologist wants to charge. Um, but then you've still got the issue of trying to get transferred to the NHS. Are you on any medication for your ADHD?
Yeah, so that's the interesting part. I've tried, but I realized that was the one. I've tried Adderall,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I think I took it maybe in the afternoon, so I couldn't sleep. Because I think you're supposed to take it a bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and my brain became so like I felt like I lost my personality and my creativity.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was super focused, not a lot of thoughts. So like, nah, just it's probably not for me, and I couldn't sleep. So I looked for other remedies, and I've been
Mm-hmm.
already sort of so interestingly, I'm super into wellness for the last 3 years,
Yeah.
and I've been doing everything that ADHD coaches would recommend, which is I meditate on a daily basis, I eat well, I sleep really well, I exercise, I gym, and then I do grateful journaling. I do great I do everything, and that made me like for the last 3 years. It made me feel really good. Like it made me feel aware, more in control of my emotions.
Yeah.
And then I got diagnosed with ADHD like 5 months ago. I'm like, oh shit, that's why before I started this wellness journey, I was in a bad
Yeah.
place.
Started having
Yeah,
really good dopamine hygiene, making sure you were getting
yeah,
it from exercise. That's absolutely
yeah.
mental.
So yeah, the last 3 years, I'll say like I've only truly been living for the last 3 years, and yeah, I didn't feel the need to take any medication. I just wasn't 100% sure if I had ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend people to get diagnosed if they feel like there's something is that you need improving in your life. My life was
Mm-hmm.
already great. For me, I just needed to know. I kind of
Yeah.
needed that label to like make sense of my whole life. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily get diagnosed to get medications or to get help. I got diagnosed to actually see if I was actually ADHD because I wasn't
Yeah.
100%
Kind
sure.
of like a bit of like justification, somewhat closure.
Yes. And I felt so good. Like so after I got that label, I was like, oh my God, like I'm not a weirdo. I'm not weird. I have like so interestingly, yeah, I'm always scared of being judged. Growing up, I was scared of being judged. I think that comes from the fear of rejection. So I was RSD, so rejection sensitivity dysphoria.
Yeah.
I lost what I was going to say, but
Fear of
we
being
supposed to answer
judged.
more. Fear of being judged, and then nah, it's gone, bro. Like we got to change
Don't worry about
topics.
it. Hats off to you, man. You've just been raw dogging life without medication and you're doing well. But I think you're one of the people that are lucky that have found a lifestyle that suits their ADHD. So many people don't. Obviously, the
Very
modern
lucky.
capitalist society that we live in, productivity is the most important measure. Not skill, not craft, not attention to detail or care or passion. Productivity, doing the same thing day in, day out, 9 to 5, 365 days a year. And like before the big industrial revolution, I think a lot of people wouldn't have had problems with their ADHD. Yes, their partner might have been a bit more stressed out because they kept forgetting to get the potatoes or whatever things were like in the 18th, 19th century. But people had more hands-on jobs. People were doing things, making things where like it's in front of you and you're like, oh, I forgot to put the wheel on this car. I should probably do that now. Whereas if you're at a desk and you forget to put the full stop, or forget to add that extra slide deck, or forget that you've got a meeting, it's so easy. These like small, minute tasks that are pretty insignificant a lot of the time, but have such a big impact on your career in a corporate world. So there's so many people with ADHD will struggle. And I think I've been medicated for a long time, and it helps, I think, without a doubt, helped me through school and university, because a lot of the time you're just not interested in a lot of these things. Like, I was fortunate enough to do quite well at school, and university had a bit of a wobble when, like, it's just one of the ones, as structure leaves, you can kind of choose to get into bad habits and just not do anything. Then you're like, okay, I need to motivate myself to go to university and motivate myself to go to these lectures. At which point, having medication definitely helps. And if you're in a normal job and have a job that you're not, like, where you can't just delegate things like you said, I wouldn't put off. I'm not endorsing medication, but it's done great for me, to be honest.
Man, if I had to say that what my medication was when I was growing up was social pressure and the pressure of deadlines. Wow, I'm so like, I think I am like, so I don't listen to class. I spin books. I learned how to like spin pens, spin books, and yeah, all of this random stuff that I did at high school. And
Mine was like highlighting. I was in English class, and my mate was like, "Look, what the fuck are you doing?" It highlighted the entire page to the point where like a teacher came over and was like, "What are you doing? Get out!" And I was like, "I was just bored." And I'd written notes, but the entire page was yellow because I just got bored and started doodling and curling, and I actually got kicked out for that. I was like, "Bro, what the fuck? I'm bored. Make
You
it
know
more
what's
interesting."
crazy? I thought everyone is like us. I thought I was normal. Everyone who pays attention in class, no one does until like the test results come out, and then everyone's getting like high marks, and I'm like, wait, what? How? Like, another one was so I grew up with with a bunch of friends in primary school and then intermediate, or they call it middle school, with all my friends. And then in high school there's something called A class. So all my friends went into A class, and I didn't get put into A class. And I was like,
So is that like the smart class?
that's the smart class, yeah. And I'm like, wait, what? Wait, what? I grew up with them. I did everything together with them. How are we so different? Like, I go to after school classes too. Oh, another one is I'm Chinese. I learned Chinese from 5 years till when I was like 18. So like more than 13 years of my life. I can't read Chinese. I can speak Chinese.
Yeah.
I can't read Chinese. And everyone else that took classes for like 10 plus years are fluent. They're like at least 50 to 80% like good on Chinese. I'm like 10 to 20. And I just didn't know why. And you know, there's a stigma of like Asians, you gotta, like, having Asian parents, you gotta go into med school, you gotta go to a lawyer or like doctor and all that. Yeah, I had that ingrained in me too. My grandpa was a doctor.
So it's not.
So I was like,
it's a pretty accurate
that's
one.
not, yeah, that's pretty accurate. Like, and my grandpa wanted me to be a doctor. And I was like, what is going on? Like, I'm like half dyslexic. Oh, I think I am dyslexic. And looking at all these biology, like mitochondria, like all these like terms, I'm like, I have to remember how to spell these words. Like, no, that's not me, man.
I think that's like, well, I don't like to brag, but if we were talking using, I was in A class. I was in W1, because like primary school was easy. I didn't really need to concentrate, and I'd just turn up, and I don't know, I guess I'm slightly above average intelligence. I have a master's degree in chemistry, but like I'm pretty bad at English. No one could ever read my writing, and a lot of the stuff I write is super incoherent. But the stuff is there. It's just not very well organized. But like when you're at primary school, you're fine. And then like secondary school, where they want you to write it in a specific way, in a specific order, it kind of slowly got worse. And then like sixth form, that went downhill. I fortunately had an unconditional offer to university, and then like university, they kind of look at how you're answering it and like the steps you're going through. So even if you make one step at the start and your entire answer is wrong, but you do all of the, if you do step 2, 3, 4, and 5 right, but because you went wrong at the start, you still get 5 out of 6 marks because you only did one thing wrong. So say if you minus instead of plus, so your answer was like completely wrong, they'll take all of the other steps, which is really good because you've still done 50% or 80% of it right. So university was quite good to me in that aspect. But yeah, like when things started to get to the point where it's like, oh, you need to be revising and like motivate yourself to do this. Like at sixth form, yeah, it's fine to go to lessons, but there's stuff you need to do out of lesson. And I was like, okay. I stayed after school every day for 2 hours, but I just ended up playing cards. There was a game called Shithead that we all played. If you know, you know. It's a great game. And I'd have all the best intentions. But then I'd hear someone, they'd just flip a card over and I'd go, whoop. Like, you know, over the hedge where someone goes, squirrel. As soon as something more interesting come along, I was like, yep, I'm going to play cards. And ended up playing cards for like 2 hours after school rather than just doing any revision. But I think that's just ADHD, isn't it, really? It's not that interesting. Something's more interesting. I'll go do that.
If we're interested in something, we're so good at doing it. And that's the thing that I hope the audience hears is that if your job, if what you're doing doesn't feel interesting to you, I highly recommend to find something. To find something that really interests you. But what tends to happen is that people get into loops. You do an uninteresting job from 9 to 5, and your motivation, your dopamine is depleted. There is no way for you to find another job, no way for you to actually build up that skill to get into the job that you want. So all you end up doing is scrolling and binge watching shows.
Or it requires a cover letter. And then you're like, not a fucking chance. But as soon as anything required a cover letter, I was like, if you don't want people for ADHD to apply for the job, just say, don't put these bullshit cover letter things because you know we're not going to write one. You know I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do it. I just want you to pay me more money. But yeah, I'm glad I don't have to do that again.
Yeah, it's pretty tough.
But even for like anyone that's listening, if it's fine for people like me and you, I assume you don't have children or responsibilities. And me, I still live at home. So if I'm broke for a month or two, it's fine. But for people that don't have responsibilities, it's really important to find something that you do enjoy and do something that is good for you. Because if you're just constantly grinding, childcare, unhappy job, going home and having all of that adulting admin that is actually really draining for people with ADHD, please make sure you're doing something for yourself. Sports, hanging out with friends, painting Warhammers, catching Pokemon, but make sure you actually schedule it because it'll make your life so much better. Like there's nothing worse than being like beating up on yourself because us people with ADHD, we're not very productive a lot of the time. We're not going to get the washing done, the ironing done, clean the house, clean the bathroom. If everything like that gets pushed back, don't push back your reward or the time that's good for you, where you're doing something good for yourself, because it'll just go into a vicious cycle. Because you'll end up staying up late scrolling anyway, and then you won't sleep, and then you'll sleep in later, and then you won't have time to do that thing in the morning, or you won't get your morning workout in, which will set you up for the rest of the day. So yeah, I think people need to be kinder to themselves and continue to reward themselves even when things don't go their way, and then try and do the boring adulting shit.
Yeah, we really hate admin. I really dislike admin. Anything that's cognitively draining is like, unless I'm interested in it, then it's great. But if I'm not interested and it takes a lot of my energy, like it takes more than people who are neurotypical.
Like filling in forms, it's like the ADHD process. You've got to turn up to loads of appointments on time. You've got to fill out forms. I'm like, we're trying to get diagnosed for a condition where we really struggle to do anything that isn't interesting, and you've got loads of admin attached to it. And I'm like, please, we're the ones that have poor self-awareness. Maybe you should be self-aware in what you're trying to ask all of these people that have short attention spans to do. So we've obviously touched on the fact that it's hard to concentrate and hard to focus. Can you tell us how this app that you're developing will help people with ADHD get more done and be able to focus at work? Is that something you can share with us yet?
Yes. Well, it's already live. So the website's called forget.work. So FORGET.work.
That could be misconstrued in saying forget about work, which I'd happily do. Just everyone give up. You don't need to do work. This app will do it for you.
So how it works is that, you know how we always get distracted on the screen, like if anything pops up, if our mind starts to wonder and be like, hey, let's Google what the cutest dog is. Well, what our app does is it's like a to-do list, and then you put all your things that you got to do in a day. For example, like, hey, I got to email Bob. Then you click focus, and a little box pops out, and it always stays on your screen. And for example, email Bob takes 5 minutes. We also have like a visual timer that kind of counts, okay, 5 minutes for you to complete email Bob, and it always stays on your screen. So if you're changing tab, if you're doing something else, that little box will constantly remind you, hey, you're supposed to be emailing Bob, and it'll give you like ding, and it'll also like have a little visual cues to kind of guide your eyes to be like, oh shit, yeah, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. So yeah, that's the main mechanism, is mainly because out of sight, out of mind. So we're always in your sight.
If you can see what I see, there's a massive whiteboard in front of me with like all my to-do lists on. I have multiple calendars that I have to use, and like I'll periodically switch between them. But going back to the little timer, I think I have a suggestion that maybe like when it gets like close to the end, it starts making sarcastic comments about what you shouldn't be doing. Is like, oh yeah, you can find out how many teeth otters have later. Email Bob. I think that would be a good addition.
Yeah, it's like you can also quickly just add a new task so that anything pops into your mind while you're emailing Bob, you can just write it down for later to do, and then go back to emailing Bob. Because the problem with people with ADHD is we know that we're going to forget, so we execute on the task immediately, and that's terrible. That's like, because we know ourselves so well, we distract ourselves even more. But the muscle that you want to build is you want to type it or put it to do later, so you can work on your current task and not get distracted.
Yeah, that it's like you. For people that don't know, ADHD's train of thought switches like every 30 seconds. So like me right now, I just looked at my phone. But sometimes it'll be like, I'll go into the kitchen, make a coffee. Then you'll see the sink. You'll think, oh, sink, I should wash up. And then you'll be like, the sponge is dirty, or there's no towels. Okay, I'll go get a towel. There's no towels. Then I need to check the washing. So you jump from task to task and nothing ever gets done. It's the same with work. When something pops up and you'll think, I need to email Bob. And he's like, Bob told me to do this. I'll go do that thing now, and then I'll email Bob. But you'll go do the thing, find something else that you were probably meant to do, not finish the thing you were meant to do for Bob, and not email Bob.
Yeah, a simple 5-minute email takes an hour for us to complete, and that's just ridiculous. So yeah, built a tool to really help people focus on one task at a time, not like multiple tasks. And we have visual cues, and we also have like sound systems, sounds as well. And the most important part about what we're trying to do is we want to make people feel the enjoyment of progressing. So we'll be like, once you click done, we'll give you fireworks. We'll be like, cross that. Like you have to feel like you're being productive, because if you think about when you're scrolling on your phone, it's dopamine, but this dopamine isn't positive dopamine.
It's sometimes demoralizing, especially if you know what else you've got to do. And like when time passes, like there's times where I'll literally lose multiple hours, and I'm like, that's literally ruined everything. Like I could have done so many things, even if they weren't productive, that I enjoy. Playing PlayStation,
Mm,
hanging out with friends, working on a project that I'm really excited about, but I'll just be scrolling. And then you're like, fuck, like you're just wasting your life. And it is demoralizing. So that, congratulations, is super important. I think a lot of time with ADHD, once we start a task and make a little bit of progress, we'll continue with it. But it's just that
yes.
starting a lot of the time. It's so
Small
difficult.
wins. It's so important. Like if you think about your day, when was the last, like if you don't get the amount of work you want done in that day, you don't feel great. But if you do exactly like what you say you're gonna do, and you complete everything, that feeling of progress, you get the best dopamine hit, and that is a positive dopamine hit.
Yeah.
Isn't scrolling for 2 hours and like, oh, no, what am I doing?
Don't you
That's
find when that happens, then you go and info dump to someone about all the stuff you've done. You're like, oh my God, I had such a productive day. I did this, and this. And like you're just so elated. Like I even feel like lighter on my feet when I've been productive. It's an amazing feeling.
It's amazing. Yeah. And yeah, that's what we're trying to do with the app. We want to exaggerate that feeling for you, because what tends to happen is people with ADHD, you've done actually a lot of work, but you don't remember how much work you've done because you don't celebrate it, or no
Yes.
one's telling you that you actually did a lot. And we still negatively self-talk. Oh, why didn't we do more? No, you have, like, hey, Bob, you've done like 5 hours of work. You're amazing. But
Hmm.
no, we're like, why didn't we do that extra 30 minutes that we wanted to do? Like we focus on the negative because negative stimulation is more stimulating, and our brain loves
Hmm.
stimulation. So it tends to go towards the negative.
Yeah, definitely. So what is the kind of, I don't know whether this is getting too much into your sales process. Is this a tool that you're hoping to give out to business and then they'll be able to share with ADHD people, or is it something that the common consumer should be looking out for and purchasing for themselves?
Common consumer, and you don't purchase anything. We're making this tool free. That's why I need investors
What?
to invest in me. So this tool's
That's
completely
amazing.
free. Yeah, I don't think we should charge people to focus. And later on, once we get enough users, we'll figure out how to monetize. But I don't want to charge people to use this productivity tool, because I
Well, I
honestly
think
think
you
that
should
it
definitely charge
helps.
businesses because if they want their ADHD people to be mindless zombies that are more productive and happier as a result, then they should pay for it.
Yes, yeah, we'll have to figure that out, because I also don't want the control to go to businesses as well. Like, I don't want businesses to
Mm,
look over what their employees are putting onto the, you know,
that's
like
good. That's
their,
very true.
yeah. So I want, like, I any everything should benefit the consumers and not the businesses, and I'll figure out a way to monetize. Haven't touched on that yet, but
Classic
we will.
ADHD. I'll figure it out at the end.
It will come. Yeah, but I have really strong confidence that this tool will make it pretty big, because even I was using it this morning for like 2 hours,
Hmm.
and then I got a lot of work done. And because I'm time blind, I mean, well, people with ADHD are time blind. So to actually time block to your to-do list, oh, that was amazing. I pumped out one content that I just posted this morning in 2 hours. Filming, editing, posting. And an hour and a half, less than an hour and a half. And that was amazing. That takes an hour and a half to do.
How do you go around your content? You a batcher? Because I like all of the online advice says, oh yeah, batch it, record loads of stuff one day, edit one day. But I'm like, I'm much more motivated if I do it there, do it, edit, record it, because like I get the satisfaction straight away. And
Yeah.
like I'm like, okay, I haven't got anything batched, so I need to edit and post it now. And most of the stuff I've done have been edited and then posted right after, because it's like, oh, the
Yeah.
urgency kind of motivates me.
I am trying to batch it, because the idea is to take no longer than 2 days to do a week's worth of content. But at the
Mhm.
moment, I'm struggling because I'm running out of ideas. So I need to keep an idea bank. I think the best way to get ideas is to digest content. But I
Mhm.
like the content that I
But
made
also
today
just be
was.
aware of all of the ADHD things you do.
Yes, that's the thing I was gonna say. So I just moved to San Francisco, and I bought a lot of stuff on Amazon. And I realized I just wanted to buy one thing, and I ended up with like a $400 USD Amazon cart. And I'm like, how did this happen? Like, okay, it's because they show pretty photos of things that I might need, and I actually might need them. So
Yeah,
I just click add to cart,
maybe.
add to cart. Yeah, it's like, yeah, I'm about to go broken for a month, and I'm still buying $400 USD worth of stuff. I'm like, wow, this is such an ADHD thing to do. Like, we don't take care of our finances. So I made a video about it today, and I think it's getting pretty well reciprocated.
Perfect. Should we have a look? I've got Instagram open now. Wow. Oh no, I think that might be a pinned one.
Yeah, no, I posted it like 4 hours ago.
Yeah, it looks like it's doing good. Well then, in a talk that we had previously, you mentioned to me that you're an actor as well.
Yes. Before that was in first year of uni, second year of uni. I did 2 years leap year. They call it leap year. Yeah, I took 2 years off of uni to go do some
Gap year.
acting. Gap year, yes, that's what they call it. Yep. I took 2 gap years to do some acting, and I realized I didn't like it because there was so much pressure that gave me anxiety. So,
There's a running
but
theme here.
now, yeah, and then yeah, I think I got performance anxiety because of it, because I was acting in China, and it was a little bit. It's quite. It's the culture's like not empowering. It's like you gotta do it. You should get it right, you know. And
Yeah, I can
yeah,
imagine
that was
it's a quite a toxic place being an actor
it
anyway. A
is.
lot of the time, especially when you're like striving, you're kind of like taking the steps at the bottom of the ladder. But do you think that was you doing like formal acting lessons, or was it something you just enjoyed and
I did
being
yeah.
creative?
Yeah, I mean, I do enjoy being creative. I took acting because yeah, it's another long story, which is in high school I didn't I enjoyed attention. I enjoyed being an entertainer. I enjoyed being the class clown. I enjoyed
Yeah,
all the personality that I thought I had, but apparently it belongs to being ADHD, and that was
yeah.
just
But
like
it comes from a
such a
good place. It's
it
not
does.
usually like a selfish thing. We want other people to like us and other people to be happy for things that we do, because 9 times out of 10 people are annoyed at the stuff we've forgotten to do.
Yeah. I had like immense need for validation, so I try to get validation from everyone. That's why I
Hmm.
belonged nowhere, but at the same time I belonged everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, I felt like I belonged nowhere, but other friends thought I belonged to that group and that group. I had so many groups. It's ridiculous. But yeah,
Yeah.
going back to, was it acting that we were saying? Yeah, so I
Yes.
enjoyed the attention a lot, and I thought like, hey, how do you get more attention? Uh, yeah, go get it from acting, and that's what I did, and I realized I didn't enjoy it. I didn't like attention. Again, is a form of dopamine that is short term. You get the attention, you enjoyed it for like, I don't know, a few minutes because
Yeah, it's
wow,
very
it
much
feels good.
fleeting, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's gone. And for me, that's not something that is long lasting. I realized,
And it's
hey,
not
it's
something
not
you can
worth it.
control either, because
Yeah,
like you said, all of these wellness things that you do, they only require you. Cold
yeah.
showers, eating good food, meditation.
Those things compound.
Hmm.
Those things are ones that compound because you're adding on good habits. And if you're improving 1% a day, tomorrow you're getting more, you're getting better, you're adding really good habits. But if you get one attention, you get 1,000 attention, the feeling of pleasure is the same. You still get a few minutes of like, I got 60,000 followers in like seven, yeah, 2 months. I don't feel, I was like, yay, great, amazing, thank you so much. And then that pleasure, it's gone and I want more.
Yeah. And now you need
It's
100K.
yes, it's crazy. And I'm super aware of this. And I'm very grateful for everyone who followed. And I'm just like, it doesn't hit the same. It hits and
It
then
just
it's gone.
raises
It hits and it's
expectations, don't you
gone.
think?
Yes. Yes. And it just helps. I mean, it gives you that short term dopamine kick, but it's
Mhm.
not long lasting. But what I found that is actually long lasting is doing something good for the world, which is for me, I get all these comments from people that saying, "Hey, I feel so seen. Thank you so much." And I thought I was the only one. I feel less lonely. And those are the things that fuel me for a long, long time. That type of happiness, that type of fulfillment, that
Yeah.
lasts.
Yeah.
I feel amazing. I can always recollect it. I can always think, wow, I have made a difference in this world. And that makes me like happy for a very long time.
It is.
Instead,
It's
like if
like
I get
once
100 mil,
Mhm.
go ahead.
Once you kind of like give hope, like one of the best quotes that I ever saw is never steal someone from hope. Like if someone's got aspirations, never take that away from them. And I think a lot of people with ADHD, there's a scary statistic that by the age of, I think it's 10, it might be younger. By the age of 10, the average ADHD child has received 10,000 more negative messages than their neurotypical counterparts, which is why rejection sensitive dysphoria is a thing, which is why especially people that go undiagnosed have really low self-esteem and bad habits and substance abuse and all this other things. It's why 1/3 of people in prison, if not more, have got ADHD. It's ridiculous. Kind of those negative messages transfer and compound.
I didn't realize 1/3 of people, but it makes sense. We're quite impulsive.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll do things that interest us there and then, and it's like, oh, robbing this, yeah, sound.
Yeah, no
Selling drugs will
risks.
make me loads of money. Great, I'll do that.
Yeah, and we think outside the box. We're not in societal thinking, and we love risk taking, and we're bad at finances. Okay, that well, oh, okay. Now everything makes sense. That's
Yeah.
yeah. There's something that is so interesting. None of my friends have this. Is that the fact that I'm living life on the edge? Actually, no. It's because I know that if things fall apart, I still got my parents' house to go to. And that gives me the assurance to be like, hey, I've got 4 months left before I go dead ass broke.
Mhm.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Enjoy your life, do what you like, and if it comes, we'll deal with it then.
I'm literally the same, mate. Like I think people with ADHD have a high tolerance of risk. Like my girlfriend's like, oh, are you sure? She like what? Because I'm starting to get, I'm an ADHD coach now, and a lot of in England, it can be funded by this thing called Access to Work, but it takes about 6 months for them to get approval for it, and then you get the money. She's like, oh, are you sure? Like, do you think you should like apply for other jobs just in case it doesn't get through? And like this, and I'm like, it'll be fine. I can only do one thing, and if I don't focus on this journey and this business that I'm making, I might as well not bother. Whereas her, like, she's like, I don't know how you can deal with this. How do you not know when your next paycheck's coming? How do you not know when your next client's going to come? And I'm like, it will happen when it happens. Like, it's fine. Like, I'm living at home. Worst case scenario, I just
Yeah,
don't go out and therefore have to work harder on my stuff.
yeah. I don't even check my bank account. I'm just scared to check it. I just want to live my life. Like the, the cognitive
American
effort for
Express are your
me.
best friend.
Yeah, if I had to look at a price and go, can I afford this? Like that takes up space. So I just know that I just need to eat cheap. I don't care. Just
Yeah.
eat cheap and enjoy my life and
Yeah,
deal
that's
with it when it
where I'd
comes.
love to get that. I don't need like fuck you money, but like I want money where like I can live my normal meager life as I do now, but not look at prices like not have to go to a pub and be like fuck is a beer gonna be like £6 here?
Yeah, yeah.
Or like I don't know how much is a beer in Auckland, New Zealand? Because it's like fucking like $12, $15 in Oz, isn't it,
Nah,
in
yeah,
Sydney?
yeah, it's about the same as in
Yeah.
UK. Yeah, but we get happy hour, which is a little bit cheaper. Well, I guess happy hour is not £6 here, is it?
Um, you don't generally get beers on a happy hour. Happy hours is more for cocktails, and you'll get like
Oh,
maybe 2 for 1.
well, you see, I
But
don't
I'm pretty
drink.
sure they just watered down the cocktails and put half the amount of alcohol in it.
Yeah, I don't. I used to drink a lot, but then yeah, I was allergic to alcohol. I drank to socialize,
Oh,
but then I realized like every time I
is
drink,
it?
I get headaches and I throw up. So I'm like, no,
Oh,
this,
wow. Did you also
yeah,
get there's a TikTok thing I saw. It's called Asian blush, is it? Or is
yeah,
that
yeah.
just Korean?
Asian full body Asian flush. I there's like Asian blush or flush, and then there's me, and I become a cow. So I'm the in the Asian flush. I am the Asian flush of the Asian flush. So
But
it doesn't hit nicely.
I hope you don't mind me disclosing this, because I thought you were incredibly, well, you are still incredibly young. I'm 26, but I thought you were like 18. But would you like to disclose how old you actually are?
I'm 28. Where did you get 18?
You look so young. Like,
On my Instagram, probably.
yeah, he's such a like, I've got a baby face, but I think I look older than you.
Oh, yeah, you I thought you were like 24, 23. Yeah, didn't realize you're 26. But
Yeah.
I think it's also because of my act. I feel like people with ADHD just generally look and feel younger because we're more extroverted, we're more jumpy, we have a bit more kid energy than neurotypicals.
Also, because we've got a 30% developmental delay in our prefrontal cortex.
Is that actually? I didn't know about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So our prefrontal cortex, which controls your thoughts, feelings, emotions, and actions. So there's Dr. Barkley, who's the guy that you'll see like clipped up talking about ADHD. He's like, if you've got a 9-year-old, set them tasks as if they were 6. So in terms of their executive functions, memorizing things, prioritizing things, take a third off of it. So, and I think that kind of makes sense for me, because like there's people my age or people when I was like years younger that are ready to have kids, and I'm like, no. Like, I'm really not, like maybe when I'm like 35, 40, and everyone else is like, what? I'm like, I'm still a child. Like, I'm a small adult. Like, and I think I don't know whether like that's for everyone, but in terms of the actual brain development, that's a fact. There's up to a 30% developmental delay in that part of the brain. And in my own experience, it definitely correlates in terms of like how like I mature in terms of this life steps that I'm ready to take, I think.
I don't actually know that. 30% is quite a bit.
Yeah, it is.
We're a few years behind. So technically,
But we're younger.
100, yeah. If I'm 100, does that mean I'm 70?
Yeah, in terms of your executive function skills.
So can we? So does that mean we don't get Alzheimer's and dementia and like all the other old disease that come?
Well,
I hope that
even
works.
if we did, we'd forget about it anyway.
Yes, you're right. That is true.
All right. Well, we've been going for an hour and 15 minutes. I know you're a very busy man. Is there any last things you'd like to say? Plug your app, plug your social medias. Where can people find you, and how can they support you?
All right. So I'm a content creator. I'll be consistently creating content kind of like full time. So you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube Reels. Mainly on Instagram right now. And the handle is at ADHD Founder. And if you're interested in using the tool, or if you have any questions about my tool, you can email me at eugene@forget.work.
Perfect. Well, that is episode 2 of the Little Podcast. Thank you for listening, and thank you ever so much, Eugene, for coming on and sharing your insight and just having a pretty fun conversation with me. And yeah, have a good day.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really fun to chat. Thanks, Luke.
Perfect. No trouble, mate. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And we have stopped.